We're back now with RNC Chairman Reince Priebus now heading to the White House to be chief of staff for President-elect Donald Trump. Someone's got to fill his job at the Republican National Committee. They held a call with their members about, well, this hour and what their future would look like. Matt Borges was on that call with the RNC. He is one of the people whose name has surfaced as a contender for the chairmanship. Borges, of course, is the current chairman of the Ohio Republican Party, and during the campaign was a critic of Trump, but ultimately became a supporter. Matt, nice to see you. I appreciate your being here. You just got off that call about the future of the RNC. Your name, as we know, has been floated for the chairmanship. What happened on that call? Is that something you'd be interested in?
Hi, Peter. Look, traditionally, our party has allowed the president or the president-elect to decide who's going to go run their political operation over at the RNC. Reince Priebus is still the chairman of the Republican Party
for a short time,
and did a wonderful job. And here in Ohio, we won everything on Tuesday night, from the top to the bottom of the ticket, swept everything that we could win, and feel really good about that. And so, what I'm looking forward to doing is supporting whoever it is that the Trump team decides that they would like to put forward and have us vote for. And I'll tell you, being able to be home this weekend with my wife and daughter and spend a little time relaxing and hanging out, letting my daughter watch cartoons and was really nice. So I'm glad that this election is over, and of course I couldn't be happier about the fact that in Ohio the Republicans, we won everything.
Yeah, understood. Same thing happened at the Alexander House and a lot of reporter and campaign folks' houses this weekend. But just simply put, would it be something you'd be interested in if the Trump transition team reached out to you?
If they were to, of course, I would be happy to serve in any way that they would ask. But we've heard some other names that are being floated. And really what I'm looking forward to doing is just supporting whoever it is that they put forward. And I'm sure that's what all three of our National Committee members from Ohio will do.
I respect. That's all we'll get from you on that topic. So let me move on to some of the other issues right now. We're seeing these anti-Trump protests daily. What does the president-elect need to do to address the divided nation to help heal this country right now?
Well, I think he took some important steps over the last several days. First, right out of the gate with his acceptance speech, was talking about reaching out to everyone and being the president for all. And then there were some of these incidents, and he spoke directly to the camera last night on 60 Minutes and said that, in fact, that these folks, who are doing some of this stuff, if they happen to be Republicans, to knock it off. And I'm glad that he's been talking about a unifying message, and that's what we really need to do right now. We need to come together as a party. We need to come together as a country and move forward. This campaign was rough and tumble and long and grueling, and it's over. And the last thing we want to do is boomerang back to what was going on even just a week ago. We're done with the election. Now it's time to move forward. And Mr. Trump has talked about being a president who will bring people together. That's what he's going to do. So, Matt,
all that said, obviously, and he's taken significant steps to unify the country right now, but it's often actions, not words, that speak volumes. And the selection as his chief strategist of Steve Bannon, a person who's tightly aligned with the alt-right, who some suggest has not just white nationalist, but anti-Semitic views, doesn't that haunt the message that you and others suggest Donald Trump is trying to deliver right now of a greater unity?
I don't know Mr. Bannon, and I can tell you that from the things that I've read and the people who I've respect that I've heard from, we heard Reince Priebus talk about this yesterday. Some of those characterizations I think may be a little unfair, and they aren't necessarily representative of what he has done and accomplished.
But Matt, you're a guy in your own house. You're a guy in your own house. You were a Kasich supporter, obviously, in your home state of Ohio right now. You and your own family experienced the hardship of coming on board with Donald Trump. As I understood it, at one point, wouldn't even put the Trump sign in your yard because you weren't sure how to feel about things, including his comments from that Access Hollywood tape right now. So are you now more comfortable with the idea of all your reservations about Donald Trump evaporated?
Yes, it's time for this country to move forward. He won the election, and he did a great job. Ultimately, my role as party chair allowed me the opportunity to have some personal conversations with him and experience my relationship with Mr. Trump in a way that a lot of other folks didn't. And I can tell you that he was always earnest. He was always forthright. He kept his word to me on the things that he said he was going to do. And he really was focused on winning the election and then being a president who will unify the country and bring people together. And now it's up to us to give him an opportunity to do that. it's also up to Republican leaders and elected officials around the country to understand that there is this enormous opportunity in front of us now. And so let's take advantage of that opportunity and let's get to work on fixing the problems. The voters over the past year and a half have been calling out for change. They've been calling out for someone to listen to their concerns. And I think really more than anything else, that's what Donald Trump was able to do. He surprised a lot of us during the primaries and then went on to not only win our nomination, but win the election and win in states that we hadn't won in, the Republican Party hadn't won in a long, long time. So he's obviously heard the concerns of voters who are calling for change, and now he has an opportunity to do some good, and I'm just going to support in any way that I possibly can. The
transition's underway right now. Do you think Donald Trump should appoint Democrats alongside Republicans in his administration?
Well, that's not really for me to say, and we'll see if he does. I know that's been a tradition on both sides now for the last couple of transition teams, that there's been at least one member from the other party in one of those roles. I'm not sure all the names that he's sorting out, but we don't want a Democrat for the RNC chair, I can tell you that. So we'll find someone to fill that role, and I'm sure with Governor Pence and Chairman Priebus and, of course, Donald Trump and his family and the folks that are working on this, they'll do a great job in picking the right people to fill these spots.
Fair to say the Democrats face their own challenge right now, trying to find their own chair. Matt Borges, I trust that also won't be you. Nice to see you. Appreciate your visiting with us, and enjoy some more time with your family in this brief hiatus you get.
Thanks.